On paper, everything should have been perfect and I should have had a great visit, but in practice, I had an awful time at the park and my day was ruined. In this video, I'll talk about how my visit to Cedar Point was ruined by poor operations, poor maintenance, and poor management. Stay tuned. I started at Millennium Force, which was unfortunately down for the time being, so they could take one of the trains off. The queue was already pretty full, so I continued towards Frontier Town. I started the day with Maverick instead, which had a pretty short wait for the fast lane line, only around 15 minutes. Right before I boarded the ride vehicle, they announced there would be some brief downtime. They never explained why, but I noticed they were transferring off some of the ride vehicles. Here's some footage of them transferring off one of the trains. This caused about a 30-minute delay, causing my total wait time for Maverick to be closer to an hour. Thankfully, I was finally able to get a ride on Maverick when I did because the reduced capacity and downtime caused the line to increase dramatically. After I left, the fast lane line was over an hour. I headed to Steel Vengeance next and entered through the fast lane line. The ride was only running one train, but the line was still moving pretty fast. I put all of my items in a locker and I passed through the metal detector. At this point, they announced the ride would be going down temporarily, so they could transfer one of the trains onto the ride. This took about another 30 minutes. The ride reopened, but they were only filling one train, and leaving the second train they just transferred empty to cycle. After about a total of 45 minutes from getting in line, I got off Steel Vengeance. Next, I got in line for Top Thrill 2 through the fast lane entrance. Top Thrill 2 was one of the only rides in the park at full capacity running all three of its trains, so the line was moving pretty fast. After only 15 minutes, I boarded the ride vehicle. After I boarded, the ride went down and the restraints came up. I was told to go back behind the gates in the station. Once again, I waited more than 30 minutes for the ride to reopen. After nearly an hour, I was able to ride Top Thrill 2. After Top Thrill 2, I headed back to Millennium Force. It was still only running one train, but I was able to skip most of the line through the fast lane merge point. The line was moving very slowly, but only after a few minutes, the ride went down. I didn't really want to wait another 30 plus minutes to wait for the ride to reopen, so I squeezed past all the people behind me in line and made my way out through the ride entrance. I gave up on trying to get on rides and stopped in the Grand Pavilion for some food. I got some breaded fish, which was actually pretty good, and then made my way back into the park. At this point, the weather wasn't the best, and it was cold and raining, although the rain was very light. I was going to go back into the parking lot to grab my camera and capture footage of the park, but my camera can't get wet, so I used my phone instead. Cedar Point obviously can't help the weather, and I'm not blaming them for the wind or the rain, but my options were either leave the park, wander around in the cold and rain, or wait over an hour to ride anything in the fast lane line. I was cold and uncomfortable, and almost all of the rides in the park were on one train or reduced capacity, so I would have to wait ages to ride anything, and I wasn't able to record footage with my camera either. At that point, I just gave up on the entire trip. I wasn't having any fun, and even with Fastlane Plus, I was only able to get on 3 rides. I spent the majority of my day at the park, and accomplished close to nothing. It felt like a waste of time, and I drove home tired, uncomfortable, and frustrated. The biggest issue during my trip was reduced ride capacity and poor ride maintenance. The only 2 rides in the entire park running at full capacity were Siren's Curse at 2 trains, and Top Thrill 2 at 3 trains. As you can see in this footage, Magnum had 2 trains on the storage track, Raptor had 2 trains on the storage track, Corkscrew had 1 train on the storage track, Iron Dragon had 1 train on the storage track, Blue Streak had 1 train on the storage track, Valraven had 1 train on the storage track, Maverick had multiple trains on the storage track. The majority of the rides in the park were only running 1 train. The wait for the Fastlane line for Magnum XL 200 was 45 minutes. For Fastlane, one of the least popular rides in the entire park, had almost an hour-long wait for Fastlane because the ride was only running 1 train. That was the story for almost all of the rides in the park. I can't imagine what this day would have been like if I didn't have Fastlane in the first place. Not to mention the fact that every ride I was waiting for went down while I was waiting in the line. Every ride except Top Thrill 2 went down so they could take trains off the ride. I have no idea what the issue was with Top Thrill 2. To me, this seems like things they should be doing in the morning before the park opens or at night after the park closes. I can't imagine that every single ride in the park is having an issue with one of their trains and maintenance needs to take a look at all of them at the exact same time. But I also can't imagine they saw that Fastlane lines were above an hour and they decided to reduce ride capacity. I don't know whether this was a maintenance issue or a management issue, but either way, it severely impacted my visit and led to a very frustrating experience. The weather was obviously out of Cedar Point's control, but I don't think the light wind or light rain affected ride operations much. All it did was make crowds much lower than they would have been, and made standing in the park for extended periods of time slightly uncomfortable. My issue isn't the fact that it was windy or raining. My issue was that I was having an awful time at the park, And having a miserable time was made even worse by standing in the rain and having no fun. Usually, rainy days are my favorite days to go to Cedar Point because lower crowds mean lower wait times and I can marathon my favorite rides all day. Not this time though, I suppose. I am sharing this experience to shed light on things that ruined my Cedar Point visit in hopes that they can improve these things in the future. My goal with this video isn't to complain or bash Cedar Point. There's a lot that I genuinely love about Cedar Point, and it has grown so much in recent years that I think it could be a nearly perfect amusement park soon. I really want to see it become perfect so more people can have great experiences and memories at the park. My hope is that talking about these issues and expressing what impacted my visit could see these issues resolved or improved. I'm curious to know if any of you have had similar experiences to this at Cedar Point. Let me know about your Cedar Point visits and what you think about my experience down in the comments below. Like always, thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.